It was a typical Saturday afternoon when my friend Jake and I decided to do something a little different. We'd been talking for weeks about going on an adventure, something spontaneous and out of the ordinary. We had no specific plan, just the vague idea of hiking somewhere remote, away from the usual crowd. We both loved the idea of getting lost in nature, disconnecting from technology, and maybe stumbling upon something interesting. Little did we know that something interesting would turn out to be far beyond anything we expected. We were in the mood for a road trip. A friend had mentioned an old, forgotten trail about 2 hours from our city. It's not really a hiking spot, he'd said, but if you're looking for an adventure, it's perfect. Just a quiet spot in the middle of nowhere. The kind of place where you could hike for hours without seeing another soul. With nothing but a backpack, some water, and our curiosity, we hopped into the car, not fully knowing where we were going. Jake was the one who drove, with me navigating via a map app that kept freezing, yet another sign that we were truly leaving the modern world behind. There's something strangely thrilling about driving with no clear destination in mind, just following the road and seeing where it takes you. The further we went, the less developed the roads became. At first, we passed suburban homes, and then the landscape turned into open fields and dense forests. By the time we reached the starting point of the trail, we were deep in the woods, a place so quiet that you could almost hear the earth breathing. It was the kind of silence that makes you feel like you've stepped into another world. We parked the car and started hiking. The trail was barely visible, overgrown with brush and tangled vines, a clear sign that it hadn't seen much foot traffic in a long time. For the first few miles, we mostly talked, laughing and joking about how we had no idea where we were going. The path twisted and turned, sometimes disappearing entirely, forcing us to make our way through thick underbrush. The air was fresh, the trees towering above us, and for a moment, I could see the appeal of this quiet corner of the world. As we ventured deeper into the forest, the atmosphere began to change. It wasn't just the quiet. There was something different about this place. The air felt heavier, almost as if the land itself was holding a secret. We passed an old, rusted sign that had long since faded, something about protecting wildlife or a park, but the words were unreadable. It didn't feel like the type of place people visited often, which, for some reason, made it even more intriguing. After a few hours of walking, we reached a clearing. The forest had suddenly opened up, revealing a patch of land that looked untouched by time. In the center of the clearing was a large boulder, perfectly rounded and sitting in a way that seemed oddly deliberate, like it had been placed there on purpose. It wasn't until we got closer that we realized something was strange about the rock. There were faint markings on its surface, etched into the stone, symbols that almost looked like they belonged to another time. They didn't look natural, that's for sure. There was something deliberate about them. Jake, always the curious one, ran his fingers over the markings. "What do you think this is?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. "I don't know," I said, equally fascinated. "Maybe an old landmark or something." As we examined the rock further, we noticed something even more bizarre. At the base of the boulder, there was a small crevice, just big enough for a person to squeeze their hand into. Without thinking, I reached into the opening. My fingers brushed against something cold and metallic, and for a moment, I thought it might be a piece of old, discarded trash. But when I pulled my hand out, I was holding a small, intricately carved box. The box was old, its wood darkened by age, but it was surprisingly well preserved. It had no lock, just a simple clasp that, to our surprise, opened with the lightest touch. Inside the box was a velvet pouch. Jake and I exchanged a look, both of us suddenly feeling the weight of the moment. We were holding something that had clearly been hidden for a long time. I opened the pouch slowly, unsure of what to expect. My breath caught when I saw what was inside. Nestled within the soft fabric was a small, but stunningly beautiful gemstone, a deep, emerald green, almost glowing in the light of the clearing. It was unlike any gem I had ever seen. It wasn't just the color, it was the clarity. It seemed to have an internal light that made it shine, as if it held a secret all of its own. Jake and I stood there, speechless for a moment, the weight of the discovery settling in. I had no idea what this gemstone was, but it was clear that it wasn't something you'd find every day. There was a sense of awe, but also an uneasy feeling that perhaps we weren't meant to find it. Still, we couldn't leave it behind. It felt like fate had led us here. We debated for a while about what to do next. Should we take it to a museum, or show it to someone who might be able to identify it? But neither of us felt comfortable handing it over to someone else. There was something about the gemstone that made us feel like it was ours to keep, for now, at least. So, we carefully placed it back into the pouch and into the box, securing it tightly. We sat in the clearing for a while longer, contemplating what we had found. The forest had grown even quieter, and the sun was beginning to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows across the ground. The mystery of the gemstone weighed heavily on both of us, but we didn't want to leave. We wanted to stay in this moment, to fully take in the gravity of what had just happened. As we made our way back to the car, the forest felt different. It was as though we had crossed into another world, and the discovery of the gemstone had somehow changed everything. The walk back felt quicker, but it also felt like we were moving through a dream. The excitement of the find was still with us, but there was a nagging sense of unease that neither of us could shake. We both knew that what we had found wasn't just an ordinary object, it was something far more significant. Once we got back to the car, we sat in silence for a while. I think we were both processing everything that had happened, unsure of what to do next. Should we keep the gemstone hidden away, or share our discovery with someone? What if it was worth a fortune, or had some sort of historical significance? Or maybe it was part of something bigger, an ancient secret that had been waiting to be uncovered. We didn't have any answers. We were just two regular guys who had stumbled upon something extraordinary. But one thing was clear, this adventure, this discovery, had changed us. The gem itself may have been small, but the experience of finding it, of stumbling upon something so rare and mysterious, felt like it had opened a door to a world we had never even imagined. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept turning the gem over in my mind, wondering if it was a sign of something more. And even though I didn't have all the answers, I knew one thing for sure, we had uncovered something incredible, something that was meant to stay with us, no matter where it came from or what it meant. The truth is, we still don't know what the gem is, where it came from, or who placed it there. But I've learned something important through this experience. Sometimes, the most incredible discoveries happen when you least expect them. When you step outside your comfort zone and venture into the unknown, you might just find a hidden treasure, literally or figuratively, that changes your life forever. And so, every time I think about that day, I remember that sometimes, the best adventures aren't the ones you plan for, they're the ones that find you when you least expect it.